Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the moment of truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. North Bay Village, Florida, December 3rd, 2025, midnight. It was a typical night in Ron DeSantis' Florida. At the Palm Tree Club, an officer working an extra-duty detail reported seeing a white man yelling profanities and racial slurs at an employee near the VIP entrance. Police said the white man continued shouting as he was escorted off the property, and that this display drew a large crowd of bystanders and caused traffic to stop along the busy roadway. Police said the white man shouted, "F you, N-word, I got a yellow N-word, and a S-N-word," the latter phrase using a derogatory term about Hispanics. Police said after an off-duty officer escorted this white man off the property, he walked on the sidewalk and continued to shout racial slurs, including calling someone a slave N-word. Authorities said that this white man's actions caused pedestrians to gather, and several vehicles traveled on the John F. Kennedy Causeway to stop, creating a public safety hazard and obstructing the normal flow of traffic. On the sidewalk, officers said the white man again yelled slurs, creating what they described as a public safety hazard. When an officer attempted to arrest him, the white man ran. The report states that the officer chased him but fell before catching up moments later. As officers tried to detain the white man, they said he flailed his arms and legs, kicked at them, and grabbed at an officer's hair and another officer's neck. A supervising sergeant deployed a taser to gain compliance, and officers eventually handcuffed the white man, the report states. Of course, he's black, so obviously they took him in alive. A North Bay Village police officer suffered minor injuries, including abrasions and knee injuries, and was treated at the scene by Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. Police said the white man initially refused to identify himself and had to be confirmed through a rapid ID fingerprint scan as being Anthony T. Governal. He was medically cleared at Jackson West Hospital before being taken to the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center. He faces multiple charges, including battery on a law enforcement officer, resisting an officer with violence, resisting without violence, and disorderly intoxication. Now, as far as who his victim and or victims are, they're not mentioned, and some of you are probably wondering, why is this guy the subject of this Friday's Crime Report? Because I think this case dovetails with briefings from earlier this week. Now, I wasn't able to find anything regarding any prior criminal record. Even though this guy was identified through the rapid ID fingerprint scan, it's not said whether or not he has any priors. But one thing is for sure, he's got an Instagram. And you see that this 30-year-old posts pictures like he's a 13-year-old girl. Obviously, he's one of these pathetic wannabe bros who are crawling around. He has numerous pics of himself sitting at a table eating things because lunch is no fun unless everybody can see it. He's from Miami, but he has pictures of himself on snowy hills and other locations because obviously he wants people to know that he travels too. He's basically posting pics of himself like he's some sort of half-brained influencer. Well, in this case, he was under the influence. See what I did there? But what's most interesting and predictable is that this guy who throws the N-word around so casually has numerous pictures of black people on his Instagram. He has pictures of Chris Rock, and apparently while he was at the airport, he posted this guy as if people are just supposed to know who he is. Again, this is a conceited and corrupt mentality that does this. He's trying to give social proof that he's a somebody. Well, now everyone knows exactly what he is. A racist. Now, here's the kicker. This guy also has numerous pictures of Kobe Bryant on his timeline, including one of Kobe in which he posts a goat emoji. So, apparently this guy's a fan of Kobe Bryant, huh? Considers him the GOAT. And then as soon as he's out in public, he turns right around and is calling everybody the N-word like it's nothing. Gee, maybe I should post a video about how so many of these white sports fans love to watch black athletes but hate black people. Because most black people like to con themselves into thinking that they're having some kind of shared love of sports when they're around these white supremacists. Black people just love to assume that because we operate a certain way, that surely deep down inside, so deep that nobody's ever found it, these anti-black racists must also operate the same way too. But they don't. It is not contradictory that these anti-black racists hate black people, but at the same time love to see black athletes perform. Everybody's fascinated by things they can't do. These racists know that they own these sports leagues. As long as they're the ones who own them, it means that these black athletes are simply there to amuse them. And they're right. In social and political terms, these black athletes are no different than a prize racehorse. and nobody's terrified that the racehorse is going to take over the stable. You know, perhaps it would be helpful if I started doing videos about how pervasive white racism is in sports, especially from so-called white sports fans. Just a thought. But that's not all. This guy also has some other silly Negroes who he had photos taken with. The faces are blurred to protect the identities of the stupid. And this creep is in Miami, so the chances are overwhelming that these are immigrants. Well, somebody should ask the goof troop here if they understand that their buddy loves to throw around racial slurs at people just like them. Well, if they're dumb enough to pal around with a clown like this, the answer is most likely yes. And for black people, immigrant or not, for anyone who's melanated for that matter, to be hanging out with racists like this is not some victimless crime. It's precisely the fact that there's some simpletons out there who are foolish enough to be around people like this that gives people like him the ability to think they can get away with saying, "But I've got black friends." And of course, the rest of the racists in the white media and elsewhere will signal boost that because they're all doing the exact same thing. His bigotry directly reflects theirs. But it says a lot that you got this late millennial here who lives in one of the most ethnically diverse places in America, and yet this is the way that this guy acts. But it's precisely because of the fact that he feels that he's got some sort of special status in the society over these other people that makes him think that it's okay. Next time some moron tries to tell you, "I can't be racist, I've got black friends," just remind them, the worst racists usually are in close proximity to the people that they hate because they seek them out. And just on a side note, whenever you hear people talking about white fatigue, this is precisely the kind of behavior that they're referencing. This is the kind of thing that actually should be more in the news, precisely because of the fact that we got so many people who try to tell us that it doesn't happen, or if it does, it's not really a big problem. And if it is a big problem, then everybody just needs to get over it. They're always moving the goalposts. And if anyone wants to try to claim that, "Oh, well, this guy, he was just saying some words, it's just words," well, hell, you had the cops themselves when they showed up. He was swinging on them. He was so out of control they had to use the taser to subdue him. And that's how you know that he was out of control, because if he was black, they would have already gone ahead and used the taser as soon as they showed up, or just pulled the guns. But if you're not black, on the other hand, they're going to sit there and try to talk with you for 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes an hour. Anything that it takes not to have to arrest you, not to use force. So the fact that this guy wound up having to get tased, getting into an altercation with the police, having to be booked, that's how you know he was wrong as hell. And I think that we all know from experience that racial immunity from law is going to keep this guy from having to do any sort of time. It doesn't matter if the charges against him are misdemeanors or even hard felonies. Regardless, it doesn't matter how many charges he had piled one on top of the other. All that matters is he's got the complexion for the protection. And that's the reason why this occurred. It's for the exact same reason that we don't know whether or not this guy has any priors. We do know that the police used one of their rapid ID fingerprint scanners, but it's not mentioned whether or not the guy has any priors. We don't know that. But if it turns out that he did, then the question would become, what was he arrested for previously that caused his fingerprints to be on file? And why is he still on the loose? Because as this story shows, he didn't get himself arrested for jaywalking. He was arrested because he was causing a public disturbance, endangering public safety, and decided that he was going to mix it up with the cops. Let this stand as a reminder to all of you black sports fans out there. When you're out there hooping and hollering and cheering for your favorite team, this is the class and caliber of individual who's beside you doing that. And if you just so happen to be traveling, be on the lookout. This clown has frequent flyer miles, but no adult supervision. Hopefully the outcome of this particular incident doesn't get swept under the rug, and we get to find out whether or not this guy has any sort of punishment, though of course we all know better than to count on that. Either way, this guy was sitting here acting like he was some sort of local celebrity on Instagram, like he thought to himself that he was going to be famous one day. Well, as the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. And that's this week's Friday Crime Report. Keep your eyes open and stay on alert, because there's a lot worse criminals out there than the ones the white corporate media chooses to show you. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Gwendolyn Langston, Sabrina Scott, Lamont Ingram, Glenda Tice, and Peter Webb. Salute to them, and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.